quantity of treats I use during a training session when I'm working with food rewards with the horse. And I get this question fairly often as far as how much I use, and then also my other question I frequently get is what do I use? And I talked about that in the previous videos, but in this video I want to talk about the quantity that I use during a single training session. So I'm going to give you a general idea of how much I work with, but I'm not going to be able to give you an exact amount because it's going to vary per horse, per type of treat you're using, the length of the session, the behavior you're working on in the session. That's all going to vary. And you know, horses that aren't struggling with their weight, you won't have to worry about how much you're using. I mean, you should still be cautious about how much you're using. We don't want to throw off their diet, but you won't have to be as strict as about the amount of food rewards you're using. Whereas with horses that are prone to holding weight easier, or as I like to say, to gain weight on air, I have to be very cautious about the type of food rewards I use and how often I'm using food rewards and how long my sessions are and things like that. So all of that is going to be variables on how much and how often and what type you're using. And if you guys want to learn more about the type of treats I use, check out my previous video. But for this video, we're going to be talking about how much I use. What do you think? How much I use? Yeah? Good girl.
Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you guys through filling up a treat pouch for one session. And again, it's approximate, so give or take a little bit. And keep in mind that usually I would fill up my pouch for multiple sessions. I wouldn't be just doing it for one to maximize my time since I'm working with quite a few horses and doing multiple sessions. But I'm going to do just one session's full, or what I feel like is an appropriate amount for how I work with my horses. To show you guys an example. So I start off with my base, and my base is going to be an alfalfa Timothy, and I'm going to use about half a cup is about what I feel like the base is for an average session. So I fill that up, half a cup, and then probably next we are going to use a couple pieces of my Hilton Herbal balls, you know, maybe 3 or 4. Then I'm going to add one of my Beady Bites treats. And then I'm going to use a couple of my, the Mana Pro Nutri-Good Beet Pulp treats. And then I might use some of my Smart Cookies. But the Smart Cookies, what I would do is I would break them up into much smaller pieces before adding them. That way they're ready to go. So I would break them up into much smaller pieces, that or even smaller maybe. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to grab a couple and add it to the treat pouch. And then there you go. It's all full for about one session. So in case you guys are wondering, this is about what it looks like outside of the treat pouch, since you can't really see what it looks like all together inside the treat pouch. But this is about the amount. Now again, it's going to vary depending on the horse and the situation and what you're working on. And like I said before, I typically fill up a treat pouch all the way so that I have enough and I don't run out mid-session. And because I'm working with multiple horses throughout the day, so to maximize my time, I don't just do one treat at a time or one session at a time on my thing. But I'm going to weigh this for you guys so you have another idea. So about 0.35 pounds. So, you know, depending on what treats you're using, you know, how much of them and how much of the base you're using, which is a little bit lighter than some of these heavier ones like the beet pulp ones. And it's going to change the weight on it. So again, I want to reiterate that this is all approximate. This is going to be an approximate amount. This is how much I find I'm using during a session. You know, I'm not super strict about it. I just go and grab a bunch and I have a general feel at this point for how much I'm using during a training session. But if you have a horse that's really struggling with weight gain, you might need to be pretty strict about how much you're using. You definitely be strict about the content of the treats you're using. Use good ingredients. Use something that's not going to fatten them up really fast, like a Timothy pellet. Use more of those and less of the higher value reinforcers. And Again, like I explained in one of my previous videos, you can use their regular feed. If you're really concerned about how much you're using, take their breakfast and use their breakfast. Now, I would definitely make sure that they've eaten hay at least, and I wouldn't recommend doing that with a horse that has only strict meals throughout the day and has some food anxiety. You want to eliminate that food anxiety by giving them their meal first and then working with them when they're mostly full. But that's an idea. It's it's flexible. This is very flexible on how much you use. This is just a general idea for you guys, so you get somewhere to start with. That's the best way to put this. Somewhere to start with, and then like I said before, I fill up my treat pouch usually almost all the way so that I don't have to keep coming back for more. Unless I am trying to limit myself, sometimes I tend to go over. My sessions go too long and I want to keep my sessions short. So I had somebody suggest to me the other day about the idea of only putting X amount of treats in your pouch so that you're forced to keep your sessions very short. And that is an excellent idea for people or like me that have a tendency to run over on our sessions and to just really overdo it as far as how long our sessions go.
Alright guys, hopefully this video was really helpful for you in figuring out the quantity, the amount of treats you should be using during a session. Now again, like I explained in the video, there's going to be differences of opinions, there's going to be different situations, different variables that go. This is not a strict formula. It is just a place to start. It's what I like to use, what works for me, what works for my situation and my variables that I have going on, and it's perfectly okay to change it up, to try something else that works for you. So don't get stuck on this specific amount, but I wanted to give you guys a place to start, somewhere to be comfortable with, and then you can change it from there, and hopefully you found this video very helpful.